And so uh, can it happen like if we give them the same medicine, like one person recovers faster than the other, and it's basically based on one's prakriti.
Now, if as per this concept, as per hydrogenomic concept, what we are trying to propose or we are trying to study, that if the constitution for the two different patient they differ, the constitution differs, and also some genomic viewpoint, if we get some clue that also there is some similarity or dissimilarity in the genomic aspect. So accordingly, the similarity and dissimilarity we can consider, because if they are dissimilar, then we can think for the drug, difference in the drug and also the food. Because I told you in Ayurveda, drug and food, and sometimes foods are known as nutraceuticals. So I told you the nutrigenomics. So food and drug, they used to deliver or used to provide or used to prescribe as per the constitution, and constitution gives us more holistic idea regarding phenotype, because if we know the genome or genome dimension, but we are not clear this with this genome what may be the phenotype. If I provide you huge genomic information, if you don't know the what is the phenotype, you cannot tell directly from the genomic information. So genomic information is important, but not always the relation is one to one. So Prakriti gives us some idea regarding more about the manifestation, the phenotype, and genomics gives us the constitution more in genomic gene dimension, genetic aspect of the genotype or the constitution. So constitution, the constitutional dimension, constitutional concept of the Ayurveda, that gives us the scope to understand the phenotype and genotypic integration. Actually, genomics one way helps us to integrated idea, genomics versus the their manifestation in the name of the constitution or the phenotype. So that is the interesting part of the study. I told you the cough people, they were less adaptive to the high altitude, but the pitta people, they were more adaptive to the high altitude. Then it was discovered that yes, some genetic manifestations are different in this. So kapha and pitta, as per constitution, it is more the manifestation or you can say the description or the phenotypic description. So these people are trying to understand. Suppose I told you the rheumatoid arthritis, I gave you the example. Rheumatoid arthritis, pitta people, they suffer, pitta people, more pitta people, pitta type of people, they suffer from rheumatoid arthritis. But severity wise, when the vata people, they suffer, then severity is more. Suppose nowadays you are seeing the corona patient, some corona conditions, they are very easily treated and they are surviving and cured very quickly. But some patients, it may be 1-2%, they are becoming more susceptible and sometimes becoming lethal. So why these is happening? Only we cannot tell about the genotype, but integrated understanding of the genotype and phenotype in terms of this kind of prakriti may help us to categorize the patients suffering from some lethal problem. So that is the approach, but it is, I should say, it is very dawn of this study. People have started in India. First in India, we have established the Tri Sutra Center of Excellence for Genomic Study in Delhi. Government of India has taken the stand, very center of excellence. There, every type of doctors, every type of scientists, engineers, they can work together, teamwork, and then we can explore more integrated approach to diagnose, to predict, to treat, as well as to prevent the disease. That I told you, and participation of the patient, because participation was a very important dimension of Ayurveda. And when I discuss the yoga, there also is the yoga also integrated with Ayurveda. In Ayurvedic treatment, yoga also a kind of part of the yoga Ayurveda. So It is the participation, your participation in the treatment process, not simply a prescription, you take this medicine. No, your participation in the therapeutic process also very important. That is the important dimension of the traditional approaches. Another question was there. You are asking, na? I deviated from there. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
There is another question, na? One student was asking me. Now, can you start now this yoga?
Yes, sir.
Achha. So, today, within next 1 hour or 50 minutes, 1 hour, I shall try to discuss with you the Hatha Yoga aspect or Ashtanga Yoga aspect. Yoga may be different types of yoga are there, but here we are discussing the Hatha Yoga. And the yoga, as you know, it is a mind-body union. The approach is you'll practice something by which you'll try to develop better integration or union between mind and body, and also connecting mind and body with nature. Here we are not considering like Ayurvedic medical practices. Here we are not using any kind of extra medicine, maybe in the form of food, or maybe in the form of herbal medicine, or in Siddha they use the ash of different material. So that we are not using. So you can say yoga is a kind of practice, and for the union or better integration, better relation between mind and body, and also how to develop good interaction or good connect between with the nature. So it is yoga means the union, multidimensional union of the mind, body and nature. So you can consider. So yoga, today I'll try to show you what yogi they thought, they considered about our body functionality, particularly our respiratory system. Many dimensions they discovered, but particularly I shall show you, or I will show you that the respiratory system, how it works, and what they told in the name of Sarodaya Yoga, and that we got the connect with the modern research, that chronobiological research, and how it modulates the nervous system of our body. So gradually, initial part, few minutes, I'll talk about the very basics of this yoga, the different components of this yoga, and how they considered our body into different layers. There also we get our connotation with the modern thought process or modern psychology or mind body medicine aspect, and then how this one particular process pranayam, that in slightly detail I'll discuss, and how this pranayam concept of pranayam or practice of pranayam can modulate the body's activity, and particularly the respiratory system and the nervous system, and that may be useful for to sensitize the body. If you want to pull the body or hitting the body, that may be useful, and that has scientific connotation. So we are trying to look into the Ayurveda and the yoga from the modern science, that modern science meeting the tradition, that I told you yesterday also, how from the modern outlook, modern scientific outlook, we can look into we can revisit the traditional many thousand years ago that was discovered, that yoga, the Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga. As per the yogic concept, they consider our body into different layers. Sthula Sarira, gross body, the Sukshma Sarira or subtle body, and again the Sukshma Sarir, they are finer aspect of the body. They told it is the Pranamaya or vital seed, Pranamaya Kosa, or the Monomaya with mental seed, and the Vijnanamaya, the intellectual or knowledge. And then they consider the Karana Sarira, causal body, that the causal body is related. They consider the Anandamaya Kosha or blissful seed. So they consider the body in different layers, and from very gross to very fine. And gross to fine means the gradually from body physical architecture to the mental architecture and the deep feelings, deep internalization of the thought process, and how the people. So if from the psychological dimension consciousness, the conscious, subconscious and superconscious aspects, so from the modern viewpoint if you see, then we get some connotation. Yes, how we look into the human body from the gross body to the body to mind, and mind in different layers up to the superconscious level. And then with that probably they thought how to connect with the nature, the consciousness, natural consciousness. So we may consider this kind of thing. So their idea of human body was in different layers. The mind, body, understanding body to mind and internalization of mind, that we see here. And I told you the different type of yoga, the Hatha yoga, particularly it is the union through from practice, so forceful union, a kind of forceful or the practice related some union of the mind body or the mind body and nature. So this is the main basic aspect of the Hatha yoga. And the Hatha yoga, the 8 step or Ashtanga yoga, they have the 8 step. Why Ashtanga? Because it has 8 step. Jump. In the practice of Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga, that is, they have the 8 steps: Jam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. The first two, the Jam and Niyam, these are you do something, you don't do something. That is the Jam, your non-violence, ahimsa, your non-lying. So many dimensions of the first limb or first step of the yoga. They consider the mental aspect. What may be your approach towards the others, towards yourself, towards the others, and to the nature. They told that it is a non-violent approach and non-lying and many. So how you can think, what may be your approach to the others and also to yourself. So it is the Jam aspect. And then Niyam, what you should, cleanliness, then austerity, self-study, introspection, devotion. So what you should do and don't do, that Jam and Niyam. So these are the 2 aspects of the Ashtanga yoga, first 2 steps. And then they told, yes, if we practice some posture, if we particularly Patanjali, Yogi Patanjali, he discovered this, and he was an atheist, and he took the idea of all the yogi, all the asana or the posture from the nature. He learned from the nature. If you see all the asana, different Matsasana, Vriksasana, Mayurasana, so all the asana, the posture, asana are mainly the posture, and he mimicked from the nature, from the plant, the animal and the general natural phenomena. He mimicked different kind of posture, and through this posture you can sit, you can stand, you can bend in the different dimensions, and you can develop a particular geometric shape of the body. It may be simple geometry in the complex one, but you are through that you can give massage to the body, you can pressurize some organ. Suppose you cannot pressure in general, can you give a massage to your liver or kidney or brain? But through this different type of posturing, to different kind of yogic asana, then you can give a massage, you can give a pressure, or you can modulate the circulation in a particular organ. Suppose you are interested to give more circulation to the liver, more circulation to the kidney, or more circulation to your thyroid gland, or more circulation to your brain. Accordingly, you can adopt particular type of asana or the posture to change that. That means you see, through force, through application of force, or through with the posture, particular posture, you are facilitating the body to manipulate, to modulate the activity of the body, particularly for the better mind-body interaction. So you see, Ustrasana, Gomukhasana, the Bhujangasana, Matsyasana, all are the natural, some from the nature he learned. He learned the Vajrasana, the Chaturdasadi aspects. So here, all these, this posture, actually I am showing in the right side, the spine aspect. Our, normally the spine has some curvature. Normally our vertebral column or the spinal cord has some curvature. You see, this is a convex, convex to concave, the concave to convex, and then again convex to concave, and then again concave. So these are the general or the scientific aspect of a spine, how they maintain the posture, or how, what kind of curvature they maintain. But when the disease happens, particularly low back pain, cervical pain, these postural curvatures are lost, or curvatures are damaged. So if you practice this kind of asana, Vajrasana, then you can maintain this kind of curvature. In a better way, you can maintain that. Those who are working in the computer and for a long time we sit before the computer, we generally suffer from neck pain. What happens in the neck? This posture is affected initially. In the young subjects, young learner, they suffer from neck pain because the posture is affected. So if you practice this kind of posture, the asana, Vajrasana, then it will help us to maintain the posture of the body. And then comes the very interesting aspect. They told about the different kind of pranayam. Pranayam means the fourth stage of the Ashtanga Yoga, that is the breathing. That I'll discuss slightly in detail today within time. So it is mainly pran. They consider the outer air as the pran, and this pran, if you inhale, if you inhale within the body and you very nicely exhale, inhale and exhale, or you store in the body or outside, it then told is kumbhak. And this kind of practice, it is known pranayam. That means prana, they consider, if you consider the air from the outside, the pran, and if you help this pran to remain within the body, and if you exhale, but nicely if you exhale with a particular rhythm, then it will help it for the mind-body interaction and mind-body union, and for the betterment of the body. That I shall tell you in detail later on. So pranayam, what I told, first two steps, that something you do, something you don't do, jam and niyam. Then I told you the asana, the different type of postures, and then I told you the fourth step, that is the pranayam. Pranayam considers the internalization or the inhalation of air and exhalation of the air. In between inhalation and exhalation, you will find that it has some rhythmic, process that I shall discuss. Then I am talking about the pratyahar. Pratyahar basically internalization or interiorization of the mind. Why? Because I told you these Ashtanga Yoga, the yogic practices, it is basically a process of mind-body interaction, mind-body union. So not only body posture. When you are practicing anything, your mind should be involved. So they told, when you are practicing yoga, first you practice something, you develop your some culture of your mind or body, and you practice the asana and pranayam, and then you develop some practice for the mind also, very specific, not only like asana, the physical posturing. You try to interiorize your mind, because your mind is moving around. The political things, there's so many things you are thinking, this person is good, this person is bad, this is happening, so many external things always you are thinking, but you are not thinking about the inside problem. So you internalization of this mind, you can know yourself. Knowing yourself, knowing the self is also very important. So they told the pratyahar, the interiorization of the mind. And then they told, suppose I am suffering from some phobia, some trauma. Yes, I cannot come out from this trauma, so I am feeling agony, or I am going towards the depression. So how to eliminate that? They told, yes, you first think something good, because you are pratyahar, through pratyahar, interiorization mind, you are trying to know yourself. And if you see that yes, something is there, you have to eliminate and you have to establish something new, something good for the human body, for the mind, then you develop some new idea, conceptualize some new idea, dharana. And then you try to meditate. Meditate means through dharana, what you have conceptualized or what you have internalized, then you establish that through the meditation. You replace the bad things with a good thing, then your happiness will develop inside. So dhyana are the meditation. And then told through this meditation, if I am not asking to do that, the samadhi, but they told yes, if I gradually I understand myself or I can connect with the natural consciousness, then my ego will be vanished and I'll be totally one and I'll be continuous with the nature. And they told this is the very deeper journey, the samadhi, the oneness. Oneness means mind body unification and also unification with the nature. So it is the very deeper aspects of the yoga. So we are seeing the Ashtanga
Sir,
yoga or the
sir, I have a
yes,
question.
yes, tell.
Sir, is there any difference between yoga and samadhi?
Now
Or
yoga, I
they are
told you yoga, many types of yoga. I am talking about the Ashtanga yoga. The Patanjali, Rishi Patanjali he discovered, and here the 8th step he told about the you are talking samadhi. The samadhi actually it is the highest level, and where you are dissolving your consciousness, ego. I am this person. I am person X. I am person Y. I have this capacity. I can dominate. I can do this. So here they are saying yes, through this concept, through samadhi, that means you are now totally integrated and one, continuous with the nature. Mind body unification and unification with the nature. But I am telling I have no idea, but it is there, it is the Ashtanga Yoga idea, the very good idea. And if anybody for the partially they think they try, they may get something new. Because I am telling you, in anatomy class I told recently a kind of new technology is coming. You have heard about the 3D printing? Have you heard about the 3D printing? Anybody?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
3D printing.
Yes, sir.
So
I have.
what people are doing, they are connecting 3D printer with the activity of the brain through EEG. EEG, you have heard of the EEG? EEG, electroencephalogram, EEG. Have you heard?
No, sir. No,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
EEG, yes. So they are connecting EEG with the 3D printer. Now suppose you are meditating or you are thinking, deeply thinking something. It may be mathematical, some formula. It may be some instrument. It may be some new type of technology. So what they are doing, recently a startup has been developed in some USA maybe, that through what they are thinking, what they are conceptualizing, when they are connecting with the 3D printer, they can print a totally new thing. Then you can see what I am thinking. It may be absurd in the nature, in the current state of knowledge or current state of that through 3D printer, what I am thinking internally, that I can develop. So this kind of deep thinking or deep internalization of mind, I may say it's a very close to the may not be samadhi, but very in between the samadhi and the meditation. You can connect your mind, the external creation. Yes, you tell. So this is happening.
Sir, Anuradha
Yes,
questioning.
yes.
No, I was just wondering. So this connection of the thoughts to an EEG, to the 3D printer. So
Yes.
what would you do? Like if I'm thinking of puri in my head, supposing I'm thinking, oh, I'd like to have a nice plate of puri. So will
Yes.
it create a puri outside? What will it
So
create?
puri, yes, that people are trying. Actually, for puri, you need the different kind of processing. Printer means now the body, human being are printing. If you provide the material, 3D printer means you have to provide some material input, na? So they can print it. Even people are printing now the big houses. Big houses.
If I'm thinking of, let's say, if I'm thinking of going on a vacation, so my thought is I am going on a vacation.
Now,
that is
3D printer means 3D printer will some material thing it will print. If suppose you are trying to develop a toy, you are trying to develop an something, some solid material or some material, it can connect. Suppose if the 3D printer is linked to in so many items and linked to in some robot, then it can instruct the robot, you take and install kind of thing. See, the new science is developing. So I am telling this kind of yogic concept can give us the idea how I can concentrate, I internalize, and then I again connect this internalized mind creative activity with the external activity.
Thank you, sir.
That I am giving the example.
Thank you, sir.
So then they told in our body, as per yogis, in our 7 chakras are there. Actually, at that time, the concept of nervous system was not so prominent. Now we are understanding the 7 chakras are related with the different plexuses or the different neuronal component of the body. That we will see. And these chakras, they considered, yes, this chakra has they are the energy center, and here again, if you internalize, if you think at the particular chakra, you can materialize something. You can modulate the body in certain way. So that Professor Anuradha is here. She may discuss. She is the expert in this field. And then I am giving you the I'm giving you some idea what is this nervous system. So if you see the nervous system, how it develops, this nervous system, particularly the brain and its component, develops very early during our growth. That I am trying to show. Before the other dentition or the other body structures and reproductive activity related organs, you see the brain development is more quicker than the other. And this brain ultimately gives rise to the very big, very complex nervous system. It is the most complex organization of the body. The nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. I'm showing you. I will not put any question. To give you because you are, most of the students are here, the engineers. So I am trying to give you one just some simple idea. You try to see this nervous system, and the nervous system, I'm not going into the detail because it is not possible within few minutes to tell. It takes many classes. Just I'm giving you the idea. So complex nervous system, communication system in our body, because there is a big terminology in the field of medical science. It is known as psycho, neuro, immuno, endocrinology. Psycho means mind, neuro means nervous system, immuno means immunology or body resistance, and endocrinology means this hormone. So why I am telling this terminology? Because you see, the yogis also told a kind of integration of all these. They were not aware of all these systems, but through the internalization of the mind and their concept, their overall concept, non-invasive concept or non-invasive observation, they develop this kind of holistic idea. And in the modern science, through the so many dissections, so many high-end equipments, now we understood that yes, body has nice amount of communicational system. One of them is nervous system. Suppose you use the communication, you use the internet, you use the mobile phone, you use the fax, and so many general telephone. So you use the different communication system. So within body, we have the nervous system as one of the communication system, very complex nervous. Then you have your mind, your nervous system, your endocrine system, the hormone, different type of hormones, they are secreted and they connect. And we have the immunological system and they develop resistance. So in our body, many communication systems are there, and one of them is the nervous system, and nervous systems also embeds some aspects of the hormonal aspects. So in nervous system, it has the central nervous component and the autonomic nervous component. Suppose you see in our country, we have the central government, we have the state government, we have the Jila Parishad, we have the district magistrate and the panchayat. What are they? The decision making process, some decision, major decisions are taken by the central government. Then regional autonomies are there, they take the state government. And the panchayat, and up to panchayat, you see gradually the decentralization of the decision making process. So in our body also, the central nervous system, this is the central nervous system, brain and the spinal cord, and then from there comes out different nerves, and out of some nerves go to the periphery, and some nerves, they form the autonomic nervous system, then the autonomous bodies, autonomous council, or like autonomous council within our body, some autonomic neurological components are there. And interestingly, we are getting the idea, I provided the slides, we'll go through, that we are getting the idea that what they told about the chakras, these chakras has connectivity with a different kind of autonomic nervous system component and the different plexuses. Because the nervous system, what happened? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
You are audible, sir.
So in the nervous system, yes, the brain and the central nervous system components, other components are there, but we have the autonomic nervous system component and we have the different plexuses. What happened? Yes. So I told you the autonomic nervous system, central nervous system and autonomic nervous system component, and then I told you how we can connect this idea or this knowledge with our chakras. How we can connect? Because we have seen in our body, along with the nervous system, autonomic, central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, some nerves, they form a kind of, many nerves comes together, and from there new nerves are developed. These are known as plexuses. Different types of plexuses are there. And now we are getting the information, yes, some plexuses are highly related with the concept of chakra. What is this? What are these plexuses? They told, yogis, they told, yes, we have the 7 chakras, and each chakra, if we concentrate, if we meditate, or if we utter some, we chant something, then we can influence it. What we influence? They told, yes, we can modulate the body activities, we can stimulate the body, we can calm it, we can inhibit it. So many performance we can perform by concentrating on the chakras. Or if we perform concentrating, we can perform dhyan. Concentrating on chakra, we can, a miracle we can perform. They told. Now we are understanding, yes, each chakra has some connotation, has correlation or definite relation with the different kind of plexuses. And now people have understood, besides the brain, in the intestine, we have the very big nervous system. Within the lung, we have the very big nervous system, and they enjoy autonomy. So now gradually it is understood the nervous system component is so complex, so elaborate, and so much centralism as well as regionalism are there. The centrally, the brain take the central decision, but not the all. Your intestine, it is now called as second brain, intestinal nervous system. Liver now called as the liver as the metabolic brain. Your heart, हिंदी में है दिल से बात कीजिए. So now we understood, yes, heart has a very nice cardiac plexus, and they also told about the chakra. So gradually from the nervous system understanding of the nervous system, deeper understanding of the nervous system and our chakra concept, we are getting very nice connotation or nice association that we are getting. It is very interesting. And another interesting dimension of realizing or appreciating the chakra concept, the modern days we say when you learn something, learning means interaction. Then generally we say, conceptually I say, the learning means interaction. The nervous system level also it happens. When you learn something, you are doing huge amount of mathematics, huge amount of particular complicated subjects you are learning, you are studying. If you take, unless you take rest, it will not be sustained. If you take rest, then it is understood. Then during your learning interaction, you new type of neurological connectivities are developed. The neuron that at the end the secrete neurotransmitter, and also they develop interaction with the other nerves. So you are meditating, you are performing dhyana, or you are meditating, or you are concentrating on the particular chakras, mean they are the plexuses, you have the neuron, and they are actually you are developing connectivity between the neuron, one neuron is the other, through the physical connections, and also through the exchange of neurotransmitters. Also to the exchange of neurotransmitter you can learn. So learning means interactions, and when you learn deeply something, you meditate or you take rest, then it will be sustained. So we are getting very nice idea. Yes, when under yogic asana, pranayama or something, we are learning. Then if you meditate, then actually at the neuronal level, you can help it to sustain this good learning. At the mental level learning, physical level learning, if you want to sustain, then you meditate. That means you are giving mind, body both in a particular posture, you are giving rest to the mind and body. So this new idea, new ideas, new evidences we are getting from the modern medicine or modern science or the nervous system, yes, yoga has definite scientific basis. Then I am going towards the pranayam. I told you the few minutes we have more. This pranayam, besides the chakra, there was huge number of nadi, or what we now recently tell, or in the modern science we tell, besides the nerve, we say the vessels, different type of vessels, blood vessels, different type of vein and the artery, and also we have the vessels like lymphatic vessels. So at that time the idea was not so mature. They told, yes, in our body the major three nadis are there, the Ida, Pingala and the Sushumna, and they are the energy channel. They conceptualize in acupuncture kind of thing, you will get the concept, or Suchived Chikitsa in Ayurveda, you will get the concept of the channels or the energy channels. So nadis also they consider it flows as well as flow of the energy, and twisting around the around your spinal cord, that's considered through the spinal cord, the Sushumna nadi, and in the both side it twists the Ida and Pingala, and they considered the Ida as the cooling one and the Pingala is the heating one. Ida is the cooling channel and the Pingala is the heating channel. And during pranayam, actually what we are doing, they told what we can do. If you consider, I have provided the slide, you can go through because time is less. If you go through this, then what is our respiration, during respiration, how the lung acts and what the lung, different composition of the lung and how the air exchanges, you will get detail in the slides, you will go through this. But I am trying to give you the other idea. In the lung, if you see, when we inhale something through the nose, then in the nose we have some turbinates, some swellings, some turbinates, or when you suffer some cough and cold, in the initial phase generally we suffer some burning sensation in the nose. Actually at that time this concha or the turbinates, they become inflamed or they swell. So this swelling has some chronobiological dimensions, one in the infection time as well as sometimes in chronologically, that temporally after every few minutes or few hours they swell, some aspect, some one side they swell, another side they shrink. So this kind of chronobiological dimensions are there in these turbinates. Now you see if we perform the CT imaging of these turbinates, then you see these are the turbinates. These are the turbinates in the gross anatomy. If you see the CT image, and if you see under the electron microscope, then you will see how very fine cilia-like structures are present in this region. Now during respiratory cycle, inhalation, exhalation, I have also provided. You will go through this inhalation, exhalation, you know. And inhalation, inspiration is an active process, and expiration is a passive process. Why active? Through using energy, you have to inhale. But during exhalation, your diaphragm in your body, you have the muscular diaphragm, fibromuscular diaphragm. That diaphragm gives the pressure, upper pressure. So passive process, in the normal passive process, expiration happens. And in between the inspiration and expiration, if you consider during inspiration means inhalation and exhalation means so you are outing. So in between there is a space, a transition. Why I am talking all this? Because I have to discuss with you the concept of pranayam and how the yogis they told and what we get the scientific connotation. And also we told in the last in yesterday's my lecture, I told you every body part they move, and the knowledge that is associated with the movement of the every body parts, they are known as chronobiology, and related timekeeping of the body is known as the biological clock. Biological clock means how body keeps the time. Your heart every minute your heart's contract and relax for 72 to say 80. That means it has particular timekeeping. Per minute, generally inhale or exhale for 16 to 20 times. So how these rhythms are maintained? Because this rhythm or biological clock maintenance within the brain, in the hypothalamus, we have the suprachiasmatic nucleus, particular region of the brain that is responsible for biological clock or maintaining time of the body. And this rhythm may be ultradian rhythm, the tau, or the timing of it may be less than 20 hours, or circadian, that means every 24 hours something changes, and infradian, that means it is more than 20 or equivalent to 28 hours. So different temporal aspect of the biological rhythm or biological timekeeping, we say ultradian, circadian or infradian rhythm. Now you see in the respiratory, and these rhythms are again controlled by the different genes that I was telling you. Different genes are discovered, different genes are expressed temporally, and they control, along with the nervous system, they control this kind of biological rhythm. Now you see, the yogis they told, I told you, as per yogis, we have the 7 chakras. We have the nadi, different, many thousands of nadis, many types of nadis are there, but mainly they around the spinal cord, they told the Ida, Pingala and Susumna. And they discovered with the pranayam that in our nasal cavity, it has a cycle. In modern day physiology book, it was not mentioned, but only yogis they mentioned that within your nasal cavity, the cavum is there, or turbinates. I have shown you the turbinates. I have shown you the turbinates, na? Yes or no? These turbinates. These they told, the yogis they told, at that time no CT machine, no MRI machines are available. But through observation they told every few minutes or hours, one side they swell, another side they shrink. So when your nasal passage is very open, very dominant, other nasal passage is inhibited. You just now, all the students, you just try to feel from which passage you exhale, you inhale and then exhale. Are you getting both the passage working same, or some force in some right or left, the force is more or less? You just feel, you tell me. You just exhale. You exhale, place your 2 finger, or if you have any cotton or any paper, you place below the nose and you exhale. You see whether right or left is dominant. You tell me. You understood? Hello?
Right
Hello?
side.
Yes, you are doing.
Yes, sir.
Huh.
Right one.
Right.
Right, sir.
Right. In your case, it is right. Another all are right.
Mine also right, sir.
Right.
Mine
Others?
So mine is left.
right.
Right.
It's left.
Left. Those are right. You are hungry. You are hungry. When you are right, all the students, you are
Left.
right. You are hungry. Are you hungry?
Yes, sir.
No,
I
I'm
have
asking
taken
just.
breakfast, sir.
You have taken breakfast. You have not taken breakfast.
I haven't, sir. I have
But
not
now,
taken.
acha, acha. But some are hungry. Is it? So in
Yes,
some
sir.
students it is right side, some students it is left side. Nah. So you are getting the differences. Not that always in all cases all is the right side or left side. At same time, same temporal point, you are getting some are right and left. So that the yogis they told it is known as Sarodaya Yoga. They told, yes, you have a nasal cycle. And this mentioned Sarodaya Vigyan or Sarodaya nasal cycle first mentioned in the modern times by the Kaiser in 1895. In the German scientist, he noted, yes, in our nasal or in a nasal passage, this you see in this picture I am trying to show you, these some turbinates are soiled. Now in one side is soiled. You are seeing this more soiled, and this in this side, the left side, it is left side in the image this side we are getting it is shrink. These are shrink and these are swelled. So it is proved by the CT imaging what the yogis they told many thousand years ago. Yes, we have a nasal cycle, and that was first discovered by Kaiser in 1895, and it was further proved by the advancement or development of, because when Kaiser developed this idea, that was simply the studying it, physiologically studying it. Then it was proved when after Röntgen discovery of X-ray and when CT machine came into existence, but then the MRI, then we could prove, yes, from sometimes some portion is soiled, other portion is zinc, and then it changes. So it maintains a kind of ultradian rhythm. It maintains a kind of ultradian rhythm. Ultradian rhythm, I have provided you the slide. What do you mean by ultradian rhythm? I'll put this question. The nasal cycle, what kind of rhythm it is? And how the yogis and how we connect the concept of biological rhythm with the concept of yogi in the Sarodaya Yoga. So yogis they told every few hours we change our the inhalation exhalation side changes, predominantly changes, and then that they told Sarodaya Vigyan, and in the modern times in the with the idea of the biological clock we understood a ultradian rhythm is present in our respiratory system. And then we understood why this rhythm, because in our body, in the nervous system, after every few hours our one part of the body become highly activated, or the sympathetic become activated, parasympathetic become inhibited, and then after a few hours the again other side the sympathetic will be suppose right side when the sympathetic is activated, parasympathetic will be prevented, or when other side the sympathetic will be activated, then the other side the parasympathetic will be activated. So what is the meaning of that? When sympathetic becomes activated, then we become very stimulated, we become energized, and the parasympathetic activated means this parasympathetic activity will become depressed. But not that in the total physical body, it happens in the brain. Right and left side of the brain, after every few hours, you will find that kind of activation of sympathetic or parasympathetic activity. when sympathetic activity of the brain will be activated, then what will happen? Your left brain, left versus right brain activity, if you see, the left brain is connected to the more logical activity, sequencing activity, linear thinking, mathematics, thinking inward. So many predominant activities are there. And right brain, when it becomes stimulated, imagination, holistic thinking, intuition, art, rhythm. So left and right brain, they have also functional rhythm, and this functional rhythm is linked with our respiratory rhythm. So what Sarodaya Vigyan told, by modulating our nasal passage in terms of inhalation, exhalation, we can modulate the activities of the brain. And activities of the brain means you can modulate the activity, nervous system activity of the body. So they told different types of pranayam. So they told different kind of pranayam, practice of pranayam. They told the pranayam like Surya Bheda pranayam. They told about the Surya Bheda pranayam or the Chandra Bheda pranayam. When you inhale through the right side and exhale through the left side of the nose, then you can stimulate your body. Then you can stimulate your body. It is known as Surya Bheda pranayam. That means you are inhaling through the Pingala and then you are exhaling through the Ida. So that kind of concept they developed, and they told when you are very heated, you are suffering from migraine, you are very excited, if you want to cool your body, then you practice the Chandra Bheda pranayam. That means you inhale through the Ida and exhale through the Pingala. You inhale through the Ida and exhale through the Pingala, then your body will be more cooling effect of the body. So in fact, what does it mean? It means that by doing pranayam, or there is a very nice pranayam, it is known as Bhramari pranayam. Bhramari pranayam, it is a kind of pranayam. You inhale, and suppose you have inhaled through 2 seconds, then you exhale for a more time, exhale through more times. Then it will cause, suppose you 1 second inhalation or 2 second inhalation, the fourth double you exhale. Then what will happen? Your body will be calming effect on the body. So what are these? These indicate, yes, what they told in the Sarodaya Vigyan, that by changing your inhalation exhalation activity in terms of the right and left, and also by time, what I told you, inhalation, then you store it, or you may not store it, but you exhale for a longer time. When you inhaling for 1 second, exhaling through the 2 seconds, that means you are stimulating something and inhibiting something. Now, when you are modulating the Ida or stimulating the Ida Nadi, that means you are calming or soothing effect on the body. When you are stimulating the Pingala, that means right side, you are stimulating your body and calming effect will be less. So this kind of idea we are getting from the concept of pranayam, and pranayam basically they told it is the prana, how you will inhale and exhale, how you will store within the body or outside the body, it depends, its impact depends on the body. This is the Sarodaya Vigyan. So Sarodaya Vigyan giving us a new idea how modulating the respiratory system, we can also modulate our body activities as a whole, and particularly the activities of the nervous system. And nervous system, not simply the brain, also the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. All the autonomy we enjoy within the body. You cannot stop your heart. Can you stop your heart? But you can move your hand at your will, but you cannot stop your heart. Why? Because heart activity is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, but the central nervous component or the peripheral nervous component, you can perform the voluntary activity. So voluntary means at your will you can do something, but involuntary means you cannot modulate involuntary things at your will. That means these involuntary activities means these are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. And these autonomic nervous system, you can activity of the autonomic nervous system, you can modulate through the pranayam. So pranayam is under Ashtanga Yoga, and special Vigyan or special knowledge they developed, the yogis they developed regarding the rhythm, nasal rhythm, and they developed with the Sarodaya Vigyan the concept or the knowledge how to modulate our body activities with the pranayam. So these are the very nice dimension of the yogic philosophy, yogic physiology or yogic concept. And I told you three special pranayam: the Surya Bhedan pranayam, Chandra Bhed pranayam, and the Bhramari pranayam, and the the Anulom Brinam pranayam. That is the alternate inhalation exhalation, alternate inhalation exhalations. So pranayams are basically we are getting the idea that yes, it is very interesting, and we can relate one organ activity with the other organ activity and body as a whole. And another very interesting dimensions of the nasal rhythm, nasal breathing in pranayam. Then in general practice, in general exercise, when mouth breathing, we perform the mouth breathing. Mouth breathing is not good because oxygenation is not good through the mouth breathing. That also I provided the slides. You will study. The mouth breathing is not good because in mouth breathing, in general exercise, we generally perform the mouth breathing. But nasal rhythm, nasal breathing is always good, and oxygenation occurs more very nicely, and more oxygenation happens with the nasal rhythm. And last I'll tell that how people also discovered when we perform the pranayam, this we can modulate the EEG rhythms, the beta, alpha, theta, delta, different type of signals. Different kind of signals are emitted from the brain in the different levels of the brain activity. So by studying during the pranayam, when we perform this kind of EEG study, then we see with the pranayam when we stimulate or particular hemisphere of the brain, then other hemisphere become inhibited or calm. So these are the things we can also study, or researchers are performing research how to correlate these EEG activity or EEG signals with the pranayam performance or practicing pranayam. So if I conclude, I should conclude, I should not the conclusion, but I should summarize what I told. I told the mind, body and nature union is the main aspect, main dimension, main perspective of the yoga, the union. But in Ashtanga Yoga, it is slightly forceful because using your mental or physical capacity, you are modulating the body's activities. So for that, you are step by step, you are preparing your mind and body, then you are practicing. Then I told how the chakras, the concept of chakras in yoga, these chakras, how they are related with the different plexuses, where the different nerves comes, unite, form a network-like structure, and from there new nerves evolves. So different type of chakras are there in their body, and chakras are related with the different type of plexuses, neurological plexuses. And plexuses, we now understood with the advancement of the nervous system, knowledge of about the nervous neurological activities of learning, that learning means interaction. That means when you are concentrating, you are chanting something, you are concentrating something, you are meditating something on the plexuses or the particular chakra, that means you are special type of learning, and you are so dual effect. One, you are learning and learning in a very calm way. That means you are simultaneously you are giving a rest. So very peculiar or very interesting dimension of yoga. When you perform general exercise, you become tired. But in yoga, you never become tired. That means yoga provides you the space that, yes, you stimulate, you modulate the activities and you learn something, you sustain something, but not at the cost of your huge costly energy. So it is very nice aspect of yoga. How that is also another point of research. Why we don't need extra energy for yogic practices. Through yogic practices, you become energized, not you lose energy. You never become tired. So after this these plexuses. I told about the pranayam, and before talking about the detailing of the pranayam, I told you the respiratory system basics that slides have provided. Then I told about the Ida, Pingala and Sushumna Nadi and the concept of Nadi, and then by changing your nasal passage, inhalation, exhalation involving different nasal passage, how we can modulate these nadis, and then how with this we can modulate the activity of the brain, right and left side of the brain, and as a whole the body's activity. And then I told, yes, mouth breathing is not good, the nasal breathing is good. And then I told, yes, when we perform the pranayam, then how the body, brain's activity changes, that you can record with the EEG signal recording. So today up to this, if you are interested, you can contact me. We can discuss, particularly revealing the newer dimensions of the impact of the yoga on the human body and related physiology or its scientific aspects. So is there any question? Hello?
No, sir, no question.
So thank you today up to this. Professor Anuradha?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. It was very helpful for me because of the yoga background and understanding the physiology of how it is actually working. And tomorrow I'll do a session with them on yoga psychology. So it will be a nice link into seeing the psychological dimensions of this practice as well. So some of them had to go, sir, because they had a class, but because it's been recorded, then they will have access to the last part of it as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.